What up, y'all? It's me, Chris, back again, here to talk about the upcoming Roy Jones Jr. versus Omar Sheika fight and the fight card itself, a little bit on it. So, first off, we got Roy Jones Jr. against Omar Sheika. That's pretty much the main fight that's selling this card on the boxing side, at least. This is a mixed pay-per-view card. It's got a boxing and MMA, so I think Roy's trying to draw on two different types of fans, audiences, because as far as the boxing pay-per-view in itself, there's no way Roy Jones versus Omar Sheika is selling. I hate to say it. I understand the reason this fight's on pay-per-view is because there's no way that HBO or Showtime would pay to put that fight on, and obviously it's a fight Roy wants to do, so the only way he's going to be able to do it and make the kind of money he demands and have it on television is to put it on pay-per-view. And as I said, he's got a lot of hard fans of his, regardless of his decline in recent years, but even I think some of his biggest supporters would be a little hesitant to buy that fight, so anyways, Roy Jones record 52-5. He's now 40 years old. Hard to believe. He's coming off the decision loss to Joe Calzaghe. Unanimous decision loss where he had success early, especially in the first round, dropped Calzaghe. Weird punch, though, kind of caught Calzaghe with Jones's wrist more so than the fist. But, Roy had a couple moments aside from that early in the first couple of rounds, but after that, Calzaghe took over and pretty much dominated the fight throughout. Before that fight, Roy had the win over Felix Trinidad, fight that he pretty much dominated for the most part. And before that, he had back-to-back wins over Anthony Hanshaw and Prince Body Ajamu. Not that those wins really account for much, because those guys really haven't done much since those fights, to be honest. Actually, another thing, it's kind of hard to believe, aside from Roy being 40 and still fighting, he's 3-4, 3 wins, 4 losses in his last 7 fights. Back in Roy's prime, in his heyday, when he was by far pound for pound the best fighter out, I don't think any of us could have seen him still fighting at 40, let alone having a losing record in his last 7 fights. But the game catches up with everyone eventually, and seems to have caught up with Roy, whether he wants to admit it or not. Anyways, on to Omar Sheika. He's sporting a record of 27-8. He's only 32 years old, which I found hard to believe. It seems like Sheika's been around forever. He's been fighting for a long time. Anyways, his last win was a TKO in the 4th round over I forgot the guy's name, never heard of him. But that was all the way back in September of 2007. So he hasn't fought, over in a year and a half, almost 2 years. I don't know what the reason for the layoff is. I don't know if he was planning on retiring, if he just couldn't get fights. I don't know what it is. But the guy that he beat, I looked at his record. The guy that he beat, that's to say that's not a quality win would be an understatement. If you go look at this guy's record that Sheika fought in his last fight, he's an opponent basically. Before that, Sheika had back-to-back losses to Marcus Beyer and Jeff Lacey. I saw the Lacey fight. He pretty much got dominated. Those fights were all at super middleweight. And he does have some significant wins, though. He has a win over never mind. He has one significant win. He has a majority decision win over Glenn Johnson a few years back. After that fight, he went and faced Joe Calzaghe in London for his title and got stopped. Calzaghe pretty much dominated him. He also has 2 interesting fights to note. He has 2 losses to Scott Pemberton. Great fights. They still show them on ESPN Classic every now and then. If you haven't seen those fights between Sheika and Pemberton, go watch them. Awesome fights, awesome wars, back and forth. Definitely worthy of being on ESPN Classic for the spectacle. I don't know about spectacle, but just for how good the fights are, exciting they are. Anyways, so I was watching a little bit of a preview video on this fight earlier, and Roy was talking about how Sheika's a dangerous fighter. He has to get past this guy to get back to where he wants to be in his career. I think Roy was kind of sound like he thinks he's going to go after a championship run again. That's what I got from what Roy was saying. As for Sheika, he was saying he's going to bring the fight. To be honest, this fight is made to make Roy Jones look good. He's making the fight. I don't know who exactly is promoting, but they're fighting in Pensacola, Florida, Jones' hometown. Roy wouldn't take a fight where he thought he was going to lose, I don't think. Especially not this fight. Like I said, Sheika's been on the it's been out since 2007. Even in his best day, Sheika would never beat Roy Jones, to be honest. I used to like to watch Omar Sheika fight. Really exciting fighter, but just a good fighter. Never was great. Never got to that upper echelon. You know, when he first came on the scene, I thought maybe he'd be something more than what he would turn out to be, but that wasn't the case. You know, for whatever reason. But just on the fight itself, both these guys are well past their prime. But I'd have to say Sheika's more past his. You know, he's had a lot of tough fights, a lot of wars. He's been beat up in a lot of fights, to be honest. I know Roy's past his prime as well, but I think he's got a lot more left than Omar Sheika does. And these guys, like I said, could have fought any time ever, and Roy would have won. He's just a superior fighter in every aspect. Omar Sheika is tailor-made for Roy Jones in this fight, to be honest. Roy's just going to box him, pick him apart. Should be a pretty one-sided fight, you know. Plus, Roy's got a reach advantage, which is going to help him out with his with this fight, with keeping Sheika on the outside and just outboxing him for the entire fight. You know, I don't know how much Sheika has left. If he doesn't have a lot left, then Roy could finish him if he chooses to attempt to. But he's definitely going to win this fight by a major, easy decision, if nothing else. Really don't know why this fight's being made other than to satiate Roy Jones' ego, obviously. Obviously, he doesn't want to go out on a Kawasaki loss, but it doesn't sound like he's going to retire anytime soon. I don't know. I really don't know what's going on in Roy's head anymore. But he should get a win here for what it's worth. Anyways, also on this card, there's some MMA fights, as I noted. I was actually thinking about ordering this pay-per-view when I first heard about it, because it's only at $30, and the MMA portion of the card's not great, but you know, with the Roy Jones fight and the MMA fights included, I thought it'd be a pretty good, you know, interesting night of fights for $30. As everyone should know, I'm an MMA fan as well as a boxing fan, and you, my subscribers, know. So on the MMA side, it was supposed to be Seth Petruzelli, the guy's coming off a win over Kimbo Slice against Doug Marshall, which would have made for a pretty entertaining fight, if nothing else. And Roy Nelson versus Jeff Monson, two top-notch heavyweight grapplers. May not make for the most exciting fight, but it's kind of intriguing, at least to me, or hardcore MMA fans possibly. And then Bobby Lashley is the big selling point piece on this MMA portion of the card. The former WWE wrestler has one fight in MMA thus far. This would be his second fight. He was supposed to fight Ken Shamrock, the ex-World's Most Dangerous Man. So I was kind of interested in seeing that. I thought Lashley would win, but being as he's a neophyte in the game, only has one fight, I thought maybe Shamrock could pose some problems for him, even though Shamrock's well past his prime. Unfortunately, Ken Shamrock tested positive for steroids in his last fight, so he is not going to be able to take that fight against Lashley. Thus, Lashley's going to be fighting Jason Guida. If y'all don't know, Jason Guida's got a 17-19 record. Not exactly, you know, he's more of a, he's not really a good fighter, to be honest. Not a great fighter. He's more of an opponent, to be honest. He lost his last fight to a guy making his debut. So, obviously they felt safe. If he lost his last fight to a guy that never had any fights, and he had, you know, 35 fights at that point, Lashley's people aren't worried about him as an opponent. They assume Lashley will go in there and destroy him, which I think he will. Lashley's got a huge size advantage, strength advantage. Obviously Guida's got the experience, but I think Lashley's going to be able to, you know, take this fight where he wants, probably put him on the ground and just smash him out. So, you know, I don't know. It should be an easy win for Lashley. Guida might be able to pull off a submission or, you know, stop him with a punch. You never know. We've never seen Lashley really hit in a fight. So who's to say how he's going to respond to getting hit, you know, if he could take a shot or not. But he's training with a good team, American Top Team, so I'm not really too worried about it, and I'm sure his people aren't either. So I'm still on the fence whether or not I'm going to order this pay-per-view. $30 isn't much, but it looks like a bunch of one-sided fights, to be honest, aside from the MMA fights. So I don't know, but either way, you know, it'll be interesting to see what fans that do order think of it, MMA and boxing fans. Although I think only boxing fans order. I don't really see any MMA fans ordering it based on the fights that are up there. To be, you know, unless they're fans of both sports like myself. Anyhow, if I do order the fights, I'll be back on Sunday to give you my thoughts afterwards. If not, and I somehow am able to check them otherwise, maybe I'll drop my thoughts even if I'm not able to check them out. But until then, guys, I'm out of here. Bye.